Hey everybody, welcome back to the VIP Financial Ed channel. This is a brand new series. I'm really excited about it. This is going to be where we compare VIP and our philosophies, our various belief systems to those of other educators through YouTube and other platforms. So we want to make sure that you guys have a really clear understanding of where some of our beliefs are similar or where there are differences behind what we're teaching to those most well-known educators out there on the market. Now, here on this channel, we teach all things banking and borrowing. So what we're discussing is how you can go further, faster financially. And of course, we're not the only people out there talking about it. One of the most well-known is Mr. Dave Ramsey, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with at least the name, if not more. So today I want to start to peel back the layers of Dave Ramsey's concepts and some of his beliefs and really look at what makes VIP uniquely special compared to those and how some of you Dave Ramsey believers and followers will really benefit from what you hear on this channel. That's coming up next. All right, guys, so the bottom line is this. We know that there are a ton of resources out there that help people grow in their knowledge of finance and help you go further, faster within your financial picture, just like VIP does. And we research a lot of this stuff ourselves. I mean, we're always looking to grow. I think they call it a maven, right? We're always looking to expand our knowledge so that we too can implement techniques that work really well and share those with you. And there really is no limitation and no finish line to the act of growing your net cash flow. There are always going to be new ways to do that. So we want to bring you all those special ways here on this channel. But the thing about it is we've found that some of this information that we uncover is really terrific. And other times the information just isn't something that we can stand behind because we know that the pros don't outweigh the cons. So we're going to start to dissect that in this brand new series where we talk VIP versus all of these other types of beliefs, what are similar about them and what are different about them. And I think this is going to be a really popular collection of videos. So today, as I'd said in the beginning, we're going to talk about Dave Ramsey. I think this is a great place to start, guys. And we have a lot of really interesting comparisons that we can make to Dave and what he teaches. Now, first and foremost, let's talk about who Dave Ramsey actually is. For those of you that are not familiar, and perhaps some of you that are don't necessarily know that much about his bio. So let's discuss that. Dave was actually born in 1960 in Tennessee, and he's very, very well known as an American author, a publisher, a public speaker, a businessman, as well as a radio and TV host. So the guy is seemingly everywhere. I've known about him for a very, very long time, as I'm sure many of you have. Now, a lot of you may not know this, went on to create a huge real estate portfolio by the time he was 26 years old, had $4 million in real estate by the time he was 26. Unfortunately, back in 1983, there were some tax reforms that were happening and it caused him to have to restructure a lot of his finances through bankruptcy. That obviously led to him looking at finances in a completely different way. And it was really the jumping off point for where he is today. This is where he was able to write his first book, Financial Peace, and that became a huge, huge hit. Now, through that success, Ramsey then went on to create what's called Financial Peace University, and it's a 13-week specifically biblically based training series. And it tackles all things like cash flow planning and credit and savings. It tackles investing or retirement and also giving. Dave is a really big believer in giving back as well. And I think most mentors and coaches that I've had are huge supporters of the idea that helping others achieve success will help you get success of your own. And that's played a major role in my life too. So let's talk a little bit about Dave's actual principles and philosophies. The first thing is discussing the semantics behind how he accomplishes what he does. That is very much done through his what's called 7 baby step process. This is the 7 baby steps to financial peace. The first of which is growing a $1,000 cash reserves for emergencies. So it's an emergency fund, something that most of us were taught growing up needs to be developed. It's that rainy day fund. So $1,000 starting point is certainly something that I think makes a lot of sense. The second step is then using a debt snowball method to attack and eliminate non-mortgage related balances. And those non-mortgage related balances, through Dave's philosophies, get paid off by attacking the smallest balances first and then rolling that minimum payment into the next, along with any additional cash flow you have above your $1,000 starting emergency fund. And over time, each account will be paid off one at a time. We do things a little bit differently here at VIP. If you go into some of our accelerated debt elimination videos, you'll see the mathematics are very much based on something known as the target rate. Now, if you just take your extra cash flow and you apply it towards something like a snowball method, that is a much, much better option than sitting back and doing nothing. Complacency and passiveness is not going to get you anywhere. So I most definitely support the snowball method over nothing. However, mathematically, you would accomplish more by attacking the highest target rate first. Now, in order to calculate the target rate, the easiest way to do that is to get access to your very own cash flow cruncher worksheet. You'll get that cash flow cruncher when you schedule your free one-on-one coaching session using the link in the description below. That cash flow cruncher will actually provide a formula on the debts page that calculates your target rate for you. If you're doing it manually, you take the minimum payment obligation and you divide it by the balance that's currently owed. For instance, if you have a $10,000 balance on a credit card with a minimum payment obligation of $200, $200 divided by the $10,000 balance equals a 2% repayment minimum payment obligation. That's the target rate. The higher the target rate, the more that particular balance is affecting your end of the month cash flow position, which means that if you have a $300 minimum payment on a second $10,000 balance owed, in many cases, it would make better sense for you to attack the $300 minimum payment account before attacking the $200 minimum payment account, because you'll be left with that $300 each month, and you can then snowball that bigger amount into the next debt that you attack. However, please know that there are many variables that go into proper road mapping of which debts to target first. So there are many things to consider, including what are both your short and long-term objectives. If you're planning to invest something and you need your credit scores really strong in order to make that investment, perhaps you want to buy a rental property. Many people who visit our channel are either active or want to be active real estate investors. So let's say in the next few months you want to buy a rental property, and you have a auto loan with a $10,000 balance and a $300 minimum payment, and you have a credit card with a $10,000 balance and a $200 minimum payment, it would seem that attacking that higher target rate would be our general rule of thumb. But in this case, if we know we want a quick increase to credit, it would probably make better sense for us to attack the lower target rate in this hypothetical example, whereby we pay off those credit cards much more quickly, because that has a much bigger impact to FICO credit scores, then allowing that new acquisition of a property to go more smoothly. So lots of different variables to be considered, truly infinite, no exaggeration, because every single roadmap is different than the next. So that's where Dave Ramsey and I are not necessarily going to be agreeing in terms of how we're paying things off, but we do agree on the idea that paying things off makes really good sense. The next thing that Dave talks about, which is step 3 of the baby steps, is a fully funded emergency fund account with anywhere between 3 to 6 months of reserves. This is not something that we agree with. So Dave teaches people that having reserves sitting idly is important for protection reasons. And while I believe liquidity and access to capital for protection and emergency purposes is an absolute necessity, I do not subscribe to the idea that taking money and parking it unemployed in a checking or a savings account is the best decision or use of that money. Instead, VIP teaches that you can access new availability of liquid funds through the use of what we call debt weapons, and have those readily available in the event of an emergency. So often we hear from people who have been, stockpiling emergency funds for years or even decades and have never needed it. So having $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 sitting idly in a checking or a savings account is really not allowing those dollars to go to work for you like they could. So mathematically, simply putting those to work and replacing or using an alternative source of liquid emergency funds is something that evidence makes much more sense. And you can see that through virtually every long form video training on this channel. So make sure you check those out. The next decision, or baby step 4 in this process, is to invest 15% of what you're earning into retirement. Now again, I think there's just a big difference between what Dave teaches and what VIP teaches in the way of conventional money management. Dave has often gone on rants where he discusses the fact that if you just simply follow what your parents taught you and what your grandparents taught you about fiscal responsibility, that you will 100% of the time grow wealth. I disagree. it's easy for me to see from my vantage point that that statement is false. You will not inevitably grow wealth doing things the traditional way. Not to mention, the traditional route of working Monday through Friday for 40 or more hours for 40 or more years, that process rarely, if ever, has proven itself to produce extraordinary results. The results that we see from that are very much ordinary. Now, it's not to say that you can't follow that path and live a very comfortable, safe life. If you're looking for comfort and you're looking for safety, certainly I think it's an avenue worth considering. Just compare and contrast your options. But if you're looking for something a little more extraordinary than that, personally, I've never seen that accomplished by following that conventionally traditional approach to managing your money, managing your cash flow, and managing your debt. Yes, debt is dangerous, but it should not be avoided. We consider it a necessary evil. And I've never seen anyone else teaching that idea, but it's incredibly true. You either have somebody on the side that leverage is the key to success and you should be borrowing. The whole idea of OPM, an acronym standing for other people's money, where you are reinvesting that successfully into income streams that exceed the cost of what you've borrowed. Again, mathematically, there's a lot of logic behind that. Unfortunately, in the unpredictability of this world, that can end up going sideways for you. So again, that debt that you're left with as you're borrowing to grow wealth is the danger. As Dave Ramsey likes to say, 100% of bankruptcies happened because somebody had debt. There was a study that was done. He loves kind of building this up. He says, there was a study, and the results of that study are very, very interesting. It was found that 100% of people who filed bankruptcy had debt. Okay, kind of comical, and yes, it's true. So know that if you're gonna get into hot water, it's going to be because of debt. So you have to be conscious of that. You have to be the utmost respect for the debt that you're acquiring in order to leverage into those assets. And that's why we attack those debts in a very similar type of fashion as Dave, from the standpoint of we ferociously attack them. But we're just doing it in a slightly different way. And either direction, like I said, we may be splitting hairs in terms of the results. If all you did was take your extra cash flow and apply it toward debt, here's a little secret for you. You'll pay off your debt more quickly. And when you do that, here's another little secret for you. You'll save tons of interest. The difference between one plan and another, saving hundreds or thousands or maybe even low tens of thousands overall, pales in comparison to the net result of any one of those plans, which usually amounts to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars over years and years' time. So whether you prevent $200,000 in interest costs or $180,000 in interest costs, again, I'm not here to split hairs. I think doing something rather than nothing is the key to this conversation. The fifth baby step is to start saving for college. The next is to pay off your home early. And finally, build wealth and give generously. So again, I think the principles overall to Dave's 7 baby steps and what he's teaching, we subscribe to. The difference is semantically how it's done, the delivery, the connection that we have with our audience. One thing that I've never really found is that Dave Ramsey is, he's kind of a jerk sometimes. And maybe we all are. Maybe as coaches, that's part of the tough love aspect to try and really kick people into gear. But a lot of the responses that I see from really being an avid consumer of his content, I find to be a little bit harsh, unnecessarily harsh, almost inconsiderate in a way. And so that's something that we hope you guys are able to get from this channel, is an impartial viewpoint that can expose you to a whole world of proactive banking, and it will literally play a life-changing role in your financial future if you allow it to, if you get out of your own way. Another key observation that I've made while consuming a lot of Dave's material is this idea that a lot of financial success happens when you're willing to sacrifice. And while I definitely believe in the work hard concept, I don't necessarily think that you have to really give up your lifestyle while building wealth. If you are achieving success and you have a positive cash flow position, the idea from there is to grow and still be able to have freedom of choice with spending and with lifestyle decisions. So Dave teaches that in order to accomplish wealth creation, in many ways, it may require you to give up a lot of things you love. Perhaps the $6 coffees that you enjoy from Starbucks, or traveling, or enjoying weekend getaways every month or two, or perhaps things that you may want to purchase for your children, or eating out and socializing with your friends. Those are really great parts of life. And to hear somebody say it's best not to do those things is not easy to remain consistent to. And I think this is why most people fall short of their potential while trying to follow a more rigid plan like that. And I think that part of that is necessary for a period of time. And make no mistake, if you are currently spending more than what you earn, that is a negative cash flow position and is a very, very dangerous position to be in, which means you need to do everything possible to sacrifice. And the way that I do that is I would itemize a list of most to least discretionary spending. You go through all of your transaction histories, through credit card statements, through your debit card checking and savings statements, through mint.com or other various resources where you're tracking and categorizing your spending, and you get rid of anything that you do not absolutely need to survive. If you have a negative cash flow position, Dave Ramsey and I agree on that approach, that very first step. But if you have positive cash flow, and as that cash flow position continues to grow and grow and grow over time, then you should have the ability to enjoy whatever lifestyle makes you the happiest. And that is exactly what you find here on the VIP Financial Ed channel, is a conversation about lifestyle design, living your ideal lifestyle, whatever that looks like. If you want to travel the world, you should be allowed to travel the world. But if you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars unnecessarily on things like mortgage interest costs or proper or improper tax planning, then of course you're going to have restrictions that you wouldn't otherwise have if you were able to keep that money. So if you're working hard and you're making all that money, don't let the banks take it right out from underneath you. Don't let the IRS take it right out from underneath you. Make sure that you're working with a great team that can help you guys put a plan in place to safely and legally avoid those expenses. And that's a big difference between Dave Ramsey and VIP. And we're really here to open up a dialogue and have a community of people that understand that the needs we have are not being met by the educators that are out there now. People like Dave Ramsey, he does not meet my needs as an entrepreneur, as an investor, as somebody that does not care to settle for ordinary. Dave Ramsey doesn't do it for me. And maybe you fall into that category and maybe you don't. Whichever direction you feel makes the best sense for you, as long as you're proactively doing something, I support you. In the long run, we're looking for a whole new solution and conversation than what existed before VIP, and that's who we invite to continue to enjoy our videos. If you think that's you, if you're sick of the banks, if you don't want to pay 3 to 5 times more interest on things like your home loans or your non-mortgage debts than you have to, if you want the best credit you can get, if you want to understand how to position yourself to borrow as much money as you can safely, then this is the channel for you. Consider subscribing. And we'd also love to hear from you on other educators that perhaps you've been studying. So make sure you throw that in the comments section below as well. We would love to explore those, and perhaps we can do a video on those as well. And of course, if you like videos like this, if you're interested in this series, if you're excited about hearing how we compare and contrast to some of the other educators outside of Dave Ramsey, please hit that like button. It shows us that you are interested in this series. And until we see you on the next video, my friends, make sure you get your 1 free coaching session. The link will be in the description below. Make it a great day today, and take care.